Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of TED Excellence, the show in which we all go in for story time, and boy, will we get a tale out of it. Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense. That came out wrong. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Terminal Thursday, because this is the end of the work week for those of us with tomorrow off for Veterans Day. And a pre-thank you to all of the veterans in the chat or who might hear this in the future. Thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice. My father, my grandfathers included. So a topic that I don't think I've ever really covered before in TEDx. I've had various things in my channel over the years that might have touched upon the subject a little bit here and there, at least abstractly, but specifically, no. Why do we need drag story time? I don't know. Why do we need drag story time? We'll get into that momentarily. First, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening? Mike R. Let's see. I can do this. Mike R. Good evening. Angelverse. Good evening. Matt Barnes. Good evening. Let's see. Advocatus Diaboli. Good evening. Grand Inquisitor Tyr Alexander. Good evening. Spoonie the Rebel. Good evening. Vader 35. Good evening. Noah Asensio. Good evening. Jamie Melquist. Good morning. Kiro Soldier. Good morning. Let's see. And then chat jumped because of course it did. Zed the Snarky. Good morning. Adabisi. Good morning. How about good evening? Shell D, good evening. Get my brain on straight here before we start. Miranda Stone, good evening. Kay Shull, good evening. Corey Suzuki, good evening. Captain Frost, good evening. A2P, good evening. Roger Reynolds, good evening. C. Thomas, good evening. Brittany Holland, good evening. Zero the Hero 909, thank you so much. Finally get to catch one live. Woo! It's like a fish. These shows are like a fish. You can catch one live. Doing it live. Thank you, Zero the Hero. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Attack Alpaca. Good evening. Robert Pincus. Good evening. You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous lunatic. Good evening. I have to also note, I have just begun what will be my final round of Invisalign adjustment stuff. So I've got two plastic things stuck against my teeth. Now, I have some practice at trying to articulate myself, or articulate words, I should say, clearly, even with them in, but they're there, so I may tumble over a couple of words here and there. It's possible. Also, I'm in constant pain. It's not excruciating. It's just constant and persistent because it's moving my teeth around, so I'm a little sore. But anyway. Attack Alpaca, did I already say good evening? If I did say hello, good evening. And then chat jumped again. The Best Remy, good evening. John Trioxin, good evening. And I think that's everybody that I see. So if I missed you, which I hope I didn't, or if you're in the future, good evening. All right, so yes, tonight, why do we need drag story time? I don't know. I've always found it bizarre and inappropriate. Maybe that's just the Puritan in me. Maybe that's the old-fashioned me. I don't see what the possible benefit is, or what the purpose is, especially given the age of the general audiences for these things. That's probably the biggest WTF of the whole thing. Tandemar, good evening. Did I say good evening to Jamie Melquist? Jamie Melquist, good evening. My memory is failing me. But I'm going to withhold any other comment on the subject. I'm going to let our speaker tell us why we need drag story time. And we will proceed from there. Tonight's bingo card is bingo card A. A as in Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers was the winner of the poll for who should be who is the best story time host. That was between Mr. Rogers, LeVar Burton, and Big Bird. Mr. Rogers won. If you'd like to take part in the weekly poll to choose the bingo card, follow me on Twitter, X, at scribe_light there on the screen. And also, before I forget, at the top of the chat box, if you'll take a look at some time, please do to the 2 GoFundMe's pinned up there. One for Maddie, a fellow YouTuber. She's recently been diagnosed with cancer and needs some help paying the deductibles on treatment. She's posted the receipts for those treatments, or the deductibles, I should say, so you know exactly where the money's going to go. And secondly, to Angry Illinoisian, was injured on the job, and workers' comp was not covering what was needed to help out the family. So if you can donate to those, please do so. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. That would be very much appreciated. A couple more hellos, and then we'll get into it. Decode, good evening. Antler the Mad, good evening. Did I miss anybody else? I hope I didn't. Sir Adamantine. Oh my gosh, Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins. How's it going? Long time no see, I don't think. I don't know. Or maybe my memory's following me again. Anyway, let's get into it. This one clocks in at just over 12 minutes. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test, and then we will proceed with, what was it again? Oh, yes. Why do we need drag story time? I don't know. Tell me.
So, happy Pride, everybody.
Sure. Why not? And are those two like lightsabers bordering the title, the name of the place there? Like really clunky lightsabers? That's what they look like to me. Anyway, everybody hear that? Okay, sounds good, says Mike R. Sounds pretty good to me. What a start. See, it is drag Mrs. Slocum. I don't know who Mrs. Slocum is, but yes, we have a man. Okay.
As you might have noticed, my name is Freya, and I'm in a great attire.
That's Eye of the Beholder.
Because I'm a drag performer, and I'm based in Graz, as you heard. But before I wanted to start my talk, I wanted to ask you one simple question.
Only one question? I love questions.
It's not that simple, but a question.
Then why did you say it was simple? I feel like there's false advertising here.
Have you ever done something in the purest intent and with the best intention in mind and got publicly called a criminal?
Publicly called a criminal? A criminal? I don't know that I've ever outwardly, directly been called a criminal before, like I've committed a crime. I've been called a whole bunch of other pejoratives for things that I've done, or if someone has interpreted what I've done as something terrible. Several ists, especially in the last 7 years or so of doing this kind of work. But other than that, no. I've come close to being branded sort of like a criminal. Yeah, can't say criminal, no.
I hope not.
Well, I've been fairly lucky, I suppose, for that specific word.
Well, I did, and I was. And this is the story I want to tell you today. But I promise you, it's going to have a happy ending.
Okay. I was going to do a little rim shot on there, but even that is probably too suggestive.
So, if you live in Austria,
and I don't,
chances are high that you might have seen this face in the newspapers 2 months ago.
I'll have to take your word for it.
This is because I was performing on the 16th of April in the Turquoise Rosa Lila Villa.
Oh, Austrian. I shouldn't talk in my fake Austrian accent. That'd be terrible. I got this fake Eurotrash quasi-Austrian accent that would probably offend most Austrians. I have to resist the urge.
One of the most important queer safe spaces and a queer landmark of the Rainbow City of Vienna.
The Rainbow City of Vienna. Okay.
But this was not by any means an ordinary performance.
Okay.
Because while I was performing, outside were not only several TV stations, but also hundreds of police officers and hundreds of people protesting.
Okay, where's this story going? I don't know. But before I get there, over in the chat, thank you, C. Thomas. To answer this thing's initial question, it's not needed for kids. Just leave the kids out of this. But how would they them have a legacy if they did? That's the part of this that I'm waiting for an explanation. Like, why involve children? What is... I've heard various arguments, at least in the periphery before, but I want to hear from our speaker. Why involve children? If you want to do this as part of a sort of satirical kind of thing in a show that people go to at some theater on a Friday night or whatever. But specifically, and especially, I don't know if our speaker will talk about, the practice in general, but especially even locally to me, there have been drag story times advertised at libraries for children, ages 4 to 6 or something. I'm just like, what? Why? What is the rationale? What is our speaker's rationale? If that's, I assume that's where we're headed at some point.
The reason
Uh-huh.
I was performing a drag story time for kids.
Well, that is the concern. So I suppose that should be the meat of this presentation. Thank you, Derek LaRue, as always, for your continued support and generosity. Thank you, Derek. Hope you're having a good evening and enjoy the show. And Shadowclaw, good evening. All right.
A disgrace. A crime.
At least inappropriate.
But is it though?
Literally a crime? Probably not. Inappropriate? Decidedly so, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Thank you again, C. Thomas. This aggressive pushing onto kids is why I'm anti. Like I say, that's the part I'd like a good explanation for. Now, the question is, will our speaker at least give voice to the legitimate concerns of both parents and just observers before giving whatever answer he wants to give about it or explanation? And thank you, Funtime Bats. Sorry I'm late. I tell you why, but the story drags on. All right. I'll give you that one. Thank you, Funtime Bats. Appreciate it. Very generous. All right.
There's a lot to unravel here, and a lot has been unraveled today, but there's one thing I want to get into with you.
Okay.
It's why the protesters couldn't be further from the truth when they said drag for kids is a crime.
Okay. Again, in the literal sense, unless it's, some particular statute or something, I don't know that it is a crime on the books. Like literally speaking, I don't know that it's a crime. But again, is this appropriate for children? And how do you justify that to anybody else? Because, okay, generally speaking, a drag performance is where you have men, usually, not always, but usually gay men, dressing up in over hypersexualized versions of women and doing shows and performance and, burlesque or risque jokes. That's classically how drag goes or has gone. All right. So, but that's for adults. That is adult themed material. That is a kind of gender bending, cross-dressing type of entertainment that is conceivable and understandable to a certain extent by adults. Why children? Why do children need to see a man dressed as a woman reading to them?
I want to tell you why doing or experiencing drag might actually be healthcare and the healthcare we might need.
Whoa. 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 Okay. I'll tell you, I wasn't expecting that.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Healthcare All right. I mean, credit where credit is due. That is the last justification that would have come to my mind. I'm not quite sure what the first one would have been, but certainly healthcare. Healthcare. All right. All right. My reaction is WTF, but all right. Keeping an open mind. How is drag story time healthcare for anybody except for maybe the performer and their ego of getting attention, negative or otherwise? Thank you again, C. Thomas. Statistics have shown that predators get at kids using drag LGBT nonsense as cover, and these people defend gaslight about it because that won't look bad at all. I mean, this is the big question that concerns everybody. That's not like steeped into the ideology or steeped into the left. Is like, what is the motivation here? Because it's just on its surface not appropriate for children. This is not subject matter appropriate for children. And I really do wonder, what are the parents thinking that, intentionally take their children to these things? Like, what is it they hope their kids are getting out of this? Or anyway, we'll see what our speaker says. Keeverdam, hello, Keeverdam. Thank you so much. It's very generous of you with the Samurai #1 Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Well.
Oh, that one always makes me crack up. Thank you, Keeverdam. Thank you, C. Thomas. Thanks, everybody. And by the way, just because I have to start doing this more often, if you haven't already hit the like button, please take a second, hit the like button. Appreciate it. All right. It's healthcare. Do I see healthcare?
But let's start at the beginning. So we are now 8 billion people at this time of history on this earth.
Okay.
And the wonderful thing is, not 2 human beings look alike, feel alike, love alike, act alike.
Oh, so we don't need a DEI program? It's already there? Well, heck, close up shop. Oh, wait. Well, Advocatus Diaboli, brings up a slight point. Identical chat jump, pardon me. Identical twins. Well, I mean, they look alike, but they're not exactly alike, right? All things considered, they're not exactly alike.
But the thing is,
humans
tend to do one thing.
Breathe.
They're not good with complexity.
Humans are not good with complexity. So humans are just simple-minded folk. What?
So they have to put everything into neat little boxes.
Pardon me while I take a drink before we get to this revelation.
And over centuries and eons, we humans created molds.
Centuries and eons? Usually when you're talking in that sense, you go from the largest to a smaller. Okay. So I can't wait to see how this is going to lead us to justification for performing a sexualized act, performance, whatever, in front of children. I mean, that's what it is.
To make people fit into these boxes. In the stories we tell each other, the books we read, the fairy tales, we get in contact with these molds very early on. And we are perpetuating these stories over and over and over again.
You mean like observable reality? Those kind of boxes? Is that what you're talking about? Things that are demonstrably true about reality and biology and... Okay.
And we learn them by heart,
Uh-huh.
and we think of them as universal truths.
What are we talking about?
Even though they aren't.
What are they? What is they? What are you talking about?
But what happens if you don't fit a mold perfectly?
No one, you said it yourself. No one on the planet all look alike, feel alike, love alike, whatever. No one fits a particular mold. Everybody is different. And humans are not inherently simple-minded. Many, many humans can understand nuance and complexity. I don't know if you know that. But I don't know what you're talking about yet. I can guess, but I don't know. So please clarify.
Let's change the image for a short minute. So imagine yourself, your
I am imagining myself.
personality,
Yes.
what makes you up, your body, your abilities, what you can do, what you can't do, who you love, how you feel, everything. Imagine this as a rich, wonderful cookie batter.
All right. I am Scribelight. Cookie batter. Thank you again, C. Thomas. Nope, I see where this is going. Back, demon, back. I don't know where this is going. I have no expectations. I try to come into this completely blank. Also, Datura Jones, good evening. H.P. Lovecraft has entered the chat. Really? Where? Let's see. The most terrifying thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. Did I get that quote right? I think I got most right. Maybe. Also, Little Bunny Foo-Foo. Good evening. How's the future going? I'm 20 minutes behind. Future's going fine. I mean, well, we're on the precipice of some grand revelations, I'm sure, but I guess we'll find out.
But there are also cookie cutters.
wait. So I'm cookie dough, and then they're cookie cutters. Jack, the cookie cutter, stalks the streets of London at night, looking for dough to shape into forms.
And these cookie cutters is what you're supposed to like, how you're supposed to look like, how you're supposed to act. And it's simply how and which place you're supposed to take in society.
So, kids, if people tell you that you're a boy, don't believe them. If they tell you you're a girl, don't believe them. If your parents tell you that you're not behaving correctly, don't believe them. Anything you want to do is perfectly fine. Is that it?
Okay, cookie cutter, cookie better.
I mean, for whatever else, I love the accent. I've always loved Austrian accents. I find them just both poetic, musical, entertaining, and hilarious at the same time.
Zack. You have a very friendly, very round, socially and society-friendly cookie.
What?
But what do we do with the stuff that got cut off?
Okay. What do we do with the stuff that got cut off? Okay.
Many people who don't fit a mold perfectly are being told that all the stuff that doesn't fit is wrong.
Right. So if I'm not 100% masculine, I must be something else, right? If I'm not 100% this, then I must be something in between. Is this where this is going?
Even if it's just by accident, being told that some part of you isn't good enough or is wrong, or that you should hide it just to fit in, it hurts.
What does this have to do with dressing up as a woman in front of children?
These words cut deep and thoroughly. And they have the ability to scar for life.
If you so choose.
As a member of the LGBTQIA plus community,
Oh, all the way to the plus. Okay.
I, as well as many others, had their experiences not really fitting in all the time or ever.
Really? Because LGBTQIA plus has been practically deified in the last 10 years in particular. So I'm not quite sure what you mean.
And at times, I personally felt lost, very lost.
Here's the thing. That happens to people. Doesn't matter your sexual orientation or gender perspective. That just happens to people. It can, it happened to me. It had to be me. I have had, attitudes and perspectives and things that were not accepted, that were ridiculed, were made fun of. Back in the day, before the entire world switched on its axis, I liked comic books and I liked video games, but I was a nerd. I was a geek. I was a four eyes. I was ridiculed. I was ostracized. I was bullied and beat up because I was different. Right? I liked to read. I was quiet. I was shy. I liked other things than what all the other boys were like playing sports and stuff. Oh my gosh. Had nothing to do with any nascent or eventual sexual orientation. It's just being a person on the outs with the people around them. And so what? What was I supposed to do? What is your advice then?
And when it was darkest for me a couple of years back, I found art.
You found art? Okay.
I found the art of drag.
Okay, that was creepy. The art of, okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Just in the realm of makeup and dressing up and everything else, I know that simply being a woman, making herself look nice and everything, is an art. Right? It's a learned skill. But that's got nothing to do with anything. You're talking about doing something where you are the center of attention. This is an ego trip. I mean, on top of dressing up, everybody's paying attention to you because you're a man dressing up as a woman. Art. Right. Okay. C. Thomas, thank you so much. Oh, woe is him. He feels left out despite being unwantedly imposed on the rest of us by ideologically captured lunatics. Pity parade for him. I mean, it just me cynical. I've watched enough of these TEDx's now. When I see somebody up on a stage complaining and complaining and complaining about being on the outs or being on the margins, over experiences that are common to people, as though they are so special. Whether it's this speaker or the last guy. Remember, Mr. What's it like to be a real man in the modern day? And he was just talking about experiences that happen to people. Not just him, not just men and women. Both men and women can be aggressive, right? Both men and women can be abusive. Oh, but only men can be, no. So I'm waiting for, why do you justify dressing up as a woman, an over-sexualized woman, in front of children? What is the healthcare benefit of that?
What I feel when I'm at a drag show is utter freedom.
Good for you. I have no qualms about somebody doing something, an activity, a hobby, whatever else, that makes them feel good, insofar as that they're not hurting anybody else and not hurting themselves. Great. Okay. And
playfulness. And for me, drag is not really about getting lost into a perfect illusion of a man or a woman or a human being.
Well, decidedly not the woman part, but lost in human being. Okay. depending on the circumstance, I'm going to extend some benefit of the doubt that maybe something is lost in translation here. So all the same, what?
It is just a wonderful paradox. And it's about basically remembering all the stuff that didn't get to the cookie.
Okay, your cookie metaphor or analogy, but it's not working. How is this healthcare for children? How is you dressing up as a woman and reading books in front of them healthcare for children?
It is inherently playful. It is taking gender roles, discovering these parts of yourself, and it's having fun with it.
Great. Good for you. Why children?
And it's embracing your inner femininity, masculinity, non-binarity.
Non-binarity. Uh-huh.
It's about discovering your queerness.
Uh-huh. For you. Okay.
And giving it a stage.
Yeah, that's the other part. Giving it a stage. It's for attention. Putting on a drag show is for attention. You're a performer. I mean, I have at least some minor experience with this at this point, being a performer, an entertainer. You know, on the one hand, I do legitimately watch these things and look at the topics that I look at to learn something, to expand my mind, to not keep myself living completely in a echo chamber, and try to entertain thoughts without necessarily accepting them. But I can't deny there's a certain element of this activity, this hobby, that has been beneficial to me. Just feeling more comfortable as a public speaker, feeling more energetic when I'm trying to, inform and or entertain and or think on my feet when it comes to watching things like this and commentating on it. I do get a lot of enjoyment on it. I can't deny there's a certain level of an ego boost to it, but this is just me. I can encourage other people to try it out if they want. That's just fine. But I don't try to then force some kind of weird, to most people, activity about gender bending stuff onto children. I try to keep this as quasi a family show, but it's not for kids. It's because I know the line, and most parents know the line. Most reasonable people know the line between what is mature content and what is suitable for children. Waiting for that answer. Thank you, Adibisi. The healthcare is for the adult, not the children. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Does performing and getting attention, negative or otherwise, being the center of controversy, is that healthcare for our speaker? That's my suspicion. Healthcare for our speaker's ego and sense of importance and sense of self-centeredness, perhaps. Still waiting to hear how this is healthcare for children.
By using art, I mean, costumes, wigs, makeup, dance, storytelling. You name it. You put that wonderful cookie batter out on display for everyone to see.
Yeah, except you listed off all the things necessary to perform drag, but you don't need drag to do any of those things. Having a stage play or something, right? Taking kids to a theater, right? A stage, Shakespeare, then you've got makeup and costumes and storytelling, whole nine yards. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a man dressing up as a either overly sexualized or, in some cases, awkwardly clownish woman, and then telling stories to children as the center of the entire thing. What is the purpose? Thank you, Kieverdam. Non-binarity, new buzzword. That's true. Let's go to the bingo card. Aside from the WTF, I haven't actually looked at the bingo card. I've been so entranced by this. Okay, so first off, collectivizes own demographic. Remember, this is bingo card A. Links are in the description. LGBTQ. Yes. So yes, as a this, yeah. Systemic institutional. Not well. I mean, sort of societal expectations and well, we'll wait. Well, maybe the world's will come up. Sales pitch for product or service. It at least by implication, there's a sales pitch for our speakers' performances, but I'm going to wait, see if anything more specific is said. Childhood or family anecdote. Specifically, I don't think he's said anything about his childhood or family yet. He's talked in abstracts about, growing up or finding yourself, but we haven't heard anything specific yet. Diversity, equity, and or inclusion. It's heavily implied, but again, not said, so I'm going to wait a bit. Plays victim. Yes. Feeling out of place, feeling like you don't belong. This is not unique to our speaker, not unique to LGBTQIA plus, whatever. It's people. Microaggressions and conscious bias. Not said yet. No, or really intimated to. Privilege. No. Contradicts own point or argument. I'm still waiting to hear the argument for healthcare in this. Patriarchy. No. Weightless example. Well, we haven't any examples of anything. We haven't had any examples of anything yet towards the argument that this is health. I mean, as far as I can tell, the thesis statement of this presentation is drag story time is healthcare. So waiting to hear that. We're over halfway through this thing and I haven't gotten to it yet. Economic disparity. No. Free space, circling that one because it's, free. Feminism. He talked about femininity, but we haven't heard feminism yet. So I'm going to wait on that one. Let's see. Marginalization. Yes. You ever feel on the outs? You ever feel you don't belong? Yeah. Okay. Got that one. A list. Not that I recall yet. A formal list? No. White supremacy? No. Nothing about race yet. Word salad. Not word salad so far. The cookie cutter thing was getting there, but a little bit of leeway. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No. Argumentative non sequitur? I guess the quality of the cookie cutter analogy, that might or might not fit into one of these squares. I don't know if it's an argumentative non sequitur yet. It's got to be bring up something and it doesn't matter. I don't know yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. Yes, as Keeper Dam said, non-binarity or whatever. Yeah. Mind reading assumes motives. I'm going to give a bit more time to that one because I really want to hear what is the justification for, drag story time. Benevolent condescension. A little bit, did you know that everybody's different? A little bit. Anecdote that probably never happened. I haven't had any anecdotes yet, except for the one where he's performing and there are cops and protesters around. So, and leaves out vital context. I'm going to wait. And see if we get the argument for why this makes sense. C. Thomas, thank you so much again. Just got to say it. Check his hard drives ASAP. Oh, man. Yeah, no, this is why it's all awkward. It's like, okay, unfortunately, normal people, I know, I said normal people, need an explanation for this. Why children? Why do you need to perform in front of children? If you get your freedom, if you get your sense of place and your sense of wellness and everything else by dressing up as a woman and performing, fine. Why children?
When I started doing drag, it felt like mental health care for me.
Yes, mental health care for you, which is perfectly fine. Okay. I have had friends in the past who've done drag and burlesque and all things like that, right? It's something that's freeing. It's something outside the norm. They get to, escape the mores of everyday workaday life, and they get to be a little saucy, a little naughty, whatever else, and they get some attention from an audience, and it lifts them up, it improves their mood, it makes them feel important. Fine. I'm waiting for the why children.
I embraced all these things. I dressed them up.
I
gave them a name.
I.
Freier von Kant was born.
Frau von. Yes, and you seem very pleased with yourself. Fine. And?
A feeling was inside of me that I never really experienced before. It's the feeling of being whole in a way.
Good for you. I am glad for you.
And to be honest, this is something that I want. I talked about the 8 billion people, you know?
Yeah.
This is something I want every one of these 8 billion people to experience at least once in a lifetime.
Well, perhaps they will. But it doesn't have to be through your method. Because like you said, everybody is different. So tell me, how does you... Okay, I'm just repeating myself now. But anyway, thank you again, C. Thomas. Check his hard drives. I can't. I don't have that power. I'm not a technomancer. I apologize. I'm working on it. You know, I wave my hands over my computer every day going, make some magic for me. It just doesn't happen. Not yet. I haven't bought enough dots in thaumaturgy for that.
Doing drag and watching drag can do so much for the community.
Not necessarily. Thank you, Poker Pierce. Drag's the modern day equivalent of minstrel shows. I guess it depends on how it's done. I don't know. Having been the president of the Bondage Club, and, just being a person in the modern day, I have come to know a lot of very eclectic, interesting people who are interested in very, very different things from your normal everyday walkabout. And up until someone does something that is demonstrably creepy, weird, or hurts somebody else or something, I'm fairly non-judgmental when it comes to things like that. It's like it's kind of it's sort of like color blindness in a way, in that if I just saw our speaker without any other context, I wouldn't make any other assumptions save for what is obvious. But beyond that, it's like, okay, if that's your thing, whatever. When I start to get to know the details, I kind of go like, what? Or okay, and this is a what? What are we doing? What's the purpose? I don't want to vilify it. I mean, drag shows have been going on for years and years and years. And it's like, some people find it really entertaining. And like our speaker says, some people find it very freeing for themselves to be able to perform like that. Okay. No harm, no foul. But
as well as the audience, people doing it. And this is why I ultimately started doing transformation workshops, as well as, in collaboration with Queen's Branch Vienna, drag story time for kids.
Okay. You want to do a workshop on drag with grown adults who volunteer to join or learn or whatever? Fine. Why? Children. People can have the kind of experiences you're talking about doing completely different things. It could be sports. It could be writing. It could be doing, painting. It could be skydiving. It could be acting. It could be a zillion things. Why do people have to do what you do?
Every drag performer has a private life, and part of my private life is I own a master's degree in education and I work full-time in education.
Well, it's not so private anymore. Okay, so you're a teacher or an educator in some way, shape, or form. All right.
And I always wanted to put these things together.
So we've gone from drag story time being healthcare to being education. All right. What are you educating children by dressing up as a woman and either over sexualized or somewhat clownish looking woman and reading stories to them?
Like education and queer art.
Queer art. Okay. I thought it was healthcare.
Because if drag can make adults happy and joyful, why not children and their parents?
Their parents aren't adults. What are you trying to push on? Okay. Queer art. Let's take a look. Let's take a think about that for a second. Why do you have the modifier in front of it? What does that mean? What is it then you are performing or presenting to children? It's innately sexualized. That's the problem. That's really the problem that most people have. You're not just doing art. You're doing art with a modifier at the front that involves sexualization. Does that not occur to you as a little, I don't know, off? I mean, if I said, I'm going to perform heterosexual art in front of the children, what does that imply to anybody with an instance of thought? What are, oh my gosh, okay.
So we created these 1 hour long shows
An hour? Can you keep kids' attention for that long?
that celebrate inner and outer diversity.
Oh, diversity up on the board. Inner and outer diversity. No, it celebrates your lifestyle. Your lifestyle. You just said it's all about the community and this and that and drag. It's one perspective. There's no diversity there. Your perspective on what happiness is.
We take stories, we look at them, and we have a little fun with it.
What is that? What does that mean?
A princess story? Of course. But this time, the princess sets out on an adventure, rescuing a prince and fighting a dragon.
Oh man, gosh, what a concept. I haven't seen that in every Disney episode. I mean, every series right now on Disney and otherwise, it's like, oh, let's flip the script and have the princess rescue the prince. Yeah, I've never seen that before. Yeah, kids of this generation, no, that never happens. What's that got to do with dressing up as a woman and doing quote unquote queer art? Is that queer art? Is just swapping gender roles in a story? Is that queer art?
We give parents and children a chance to throw away those molds.
Yeah, to start assimilating your worldview on sexuality and gender.
To become who they are.
No, they were who they were when they walked in. Become who they are? You have the power through your performance to help them become who they are. Okay, I'm circling sales pitch for product or service. Circling that one. Let's see. I'm gonna wait on some of the other ones.
Instead of who they should be.
Becoming who they are instead of who they. So you know that when they walk in the room, they are incorrect. That boy's incorrect. Is that how it is? Anybody who does not find your way of feeling free, healthy, is not who they should be? What? Thank you again, C. Thomas. FBI has entered the chat. Awkward. Just all around awkward to me. Jeanette E. Hellas, real quick. No, all drag queens should do is perform at a drag brunch and collect money from adults. Yeah, appropriately speaking, yes. And also, hello, Jeanette. Also, good evening, a guy in his room, and Assassin of the Gray. Good evening. Yeah, you must conform to our degeneracy or else you're bigots. Well, technically speaking, you know, if you didn't like somebody because of their, well, I'm not going to, I could get definitional, you know, but I'll stop being such a nitpicker.
I want to tell and perform stories that clearly say you could instead of you should.
It sounds like you want to perform stories that clearly say, don't believe what nature or your instincts tell you, and if you do, then you're acting wrong. You've been hypnotized by the system. I am a rebel. Be rebellious. Be like me. Of course, at the end of the day, it really comes down, you know, it's the parents bringing their children to a show like this. I'd rather hear from parents who bring their children to shows like this. Because, you know, someone offering a performance like this is one thing. Voluntarily bringing your small children to it, that's the kicker.
Stories that show kids that they are okay as they are.
No, you're not telling them they're okay as they are. You're telling them to question the natural world and their own intuition about themselves. Of course, I'm assuming as well that the parents bringing them to a show like this are already doing that. So getting it from two different directions. Boys don't have to be boys and girls don't have to be girls, and there's no such thing as gender. Right?
That they mustn't be afraid of themselves or others.
Yeah, by putting massive doubts in their heads about what they actually feel or think because they have grown adults confusing them.
That they are allowed to be courageous.
Then let them grow of their own. Okay. I am assuming, our speaker didn't say otherwise, I'm assuming that our speaker, as described, grew up with, certain expectations and certain boxes that he fit in and this, that, and the other. And then he grew up and he found his calling as an adult. He naturally progressed to that point and then discovered what makes him happy. Great. How about we let the kids go the same way? Why do you need to impose on them a revelation that they can come to themselves like you did?
That they are allowed to stand up for themselves and for others.
What does that have to do with dressing up as a woman?
I want kids to be able to find their own place in the world.
Then leave them alone. What? Okay, contradicts own point or argument, circling that one. Still waiting on that whole healthcare thing, unless the implication is that this is supposed to be positive mental health care for children or something. Thank you, Assassin of the Gray. The question is not why do children need drag queens to read to them? The real question is why do drag queens demand an audience of children? That is the real question here. If our speaker finds freedom and sense of self and everything else in performing in drag, fine. Why children? Thank you, Alan Thyler, for the Hiya Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
That's a Ranting Monkey Dogcat Fox, an awfully brief wowie wow wow from Ranting Monkey. I was about to say wowie wow from Dogcat Fox. A wowie wow from Dogcat Fox is something completely different. Wowie wow wow. Right, Dogcat Fox? Wow. Okay. No, go back. Go back. There's dishes that need to be done. Go over. Yeah, Dogcat Fox is an indentured servant. I don't know what to tell you. Has to earn his keep, right? Wowie. That's right. Okay. Anyway, where were we? Whatever.
And that in a storytelling hour full of laughter, full of music and dancing, full of queer art.
There's that modifier again.
And opening up worlds of possibilities instead of reducing them to a minimum.
No. You have a captive audience who is having one particular perspective forced upon them. You're not talking about possibilities. You're talking about your worldview and implying that anyone who says to a child that they are a boy or a girl is wrong. Imposing doubt into children about observable realities of themselves, not letting them develop of their own accord. You just said, let them find out for themselves. You're not. You're contributing to them not. But ultimately, like I said, our speaker isn't the issue. It's the parents. It really is the parents.
One of the questions I get is, okay, everything fine, but why drag performers?
No, why children?
Okay. So
God, hold us back, guys. Oh boy, this is very emotional now. Okay, why drag performers? All right. Well, if you're not going to approach it from the real side of the issue, okay, yes. Why do drag performers need to read to children?
So drag performers are not just ordinary storytellers.
Oh, they're not ordinary storytellers. Oh, okay. What's so special about drag performers? If you dress in drag, are you just inherently a better storyteller? I guess it all depends on how you're presenting.
First, they are very good at it.
They're very good at what? Storytelling? Just naturally? Because a guy puts on a dress and makeup? Wow, okay. Well, heck, does that mean that... Well, Hollywood knows where to find its best writers now, I guess.
And second, even in all their makeup, in the wigs, in the costumes and everything, they ooze authenticity.
Oh, poor choice of words, but okay. Authenticity. Authenticity. You made up a name for yourself when you are dressed up. You have a stage name. I mean, here's the thing. If I watch somebody on a movie screen, right, playing a part, I have enough separation between fiction and reality to know that if I'm watching someone on a screen playing a part, I have an inkling that forever how good an actor this person is on screen, their actual real life personality probably doesn't match the character they're playing. Unless it's like Will Smith. Most times. So, no. I don't see a drag performer. I don't see a circus clown. I don't see an actor on a movie screen. I don't see someone dressed up as a mascot at a sports game. I don't assume authenticity looking at what they are doing in their performance. I look at a performance. I look at a character, a persona. Now, this might be some kind of quasi-expression of your authentic hidden self and everything else. But at the same time, you're putting on an act. It is an act. It's a show. It's a performance. You know, it might be a completely sincere performance. It might not be done to deceive in the, effort of harming anybody or taking advantage of anybody, but all the same, it's a performance. I'm not seeing the real person there. But anyway, Brittany Holland, thank you so much. Scribe, your laughter always cheers me up. Oh, well, I'm glad. I always thought my laughter sounded kind of cackly and obnoxious, but hey, as long as you like it, that's fine. See, I'll remember that. Thank you so much, Brittany. And Poker Pierce, thank you again. Ooze. Yes. Ooh, as Ernest P. Worrell might have said. Thank you, Poker. All right, let me back up a second because I lost track of where we're at.
All the makeup, in the wigs, in the costumes and everything, they ooze authenticity because everything they say comes from a place of love and from a place of personal experience.
Okay. The complexities and nuances of gender identity, expression, and elsewise in the way that you are doing it and imposing it on your audience is not material suitable for children. But again, like I say, I'd rather the parents were explaining themselves, but still waiting. How is this healthcare for children? Why do you need to do this in front of children? You could do this, and I'm sure you have, in front of grown adults who can understand more so the complexities of such things, even though, as you implied, humans are just all simple-minded creatures. But why children?
So if somebody gives me that questions, I answer back, if not drag queens, who else?
If not drag queens, who else to read stories to children? Mr. Rogers, LeVar Burton, Big Bird, a teacher, an adult, a person focusing on the story rather than having the audience focus on them, the performer, where the intention of the show is to educate and entertain children, not to feed the ego of the performer and satisfy their need to try to broadcast their worldview onto children. I mean, I could think of a few options beyond drag queens, activist drag queens. I don't know. Maybe I guess my imagination just knows more bounds than that.
And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this. Drag is most definitely not a crime.
You're correct. It is not a crime. Performing in front of children with an intention to confuse them about reality and themselves, depending on the circumstances, may not be a crime. It is, however, inappropriate and creepy to most people. And with 2 minutes left, I'm still waiting for an explanation as to why you need to perform this in front of them.
Drag is for everybody.
No, it is not. Some people have no interest in it. Some people don't find it entertaining or alluring or anything. As you said, everybody is different. You said that at the top of your own talk. You have to accept the possibility that some people don't care, aren't interested, or might even be repelled by it. Just like I'm sure you are not interested, don't care, or repelled by other things people do. Everybody's different. I've already circled contradicts own point or argument, so not much more to do there. Thank you again, C. Thomas. A better reader, military, firefighter, EMTs. What? Somebody who's like done something of merit? What? Actually has stories to tell that might have some kind of value and personal safety or life experience elsewise? That's like a general good? No.
To experience as well as to do.
Not necessarily.
And go to drag shows.
What if I don't want to? You can't make me.
Read to children. Look at the stories you're reading to them.
I mean, I have read to children before. I didn't need to dress up as a woman to do it. I read them the story. And?
Tell stories. Tell new stories.
I do occasionally. Do I need to dress up as a woman to do that?
And in the beginning, I promised you a happy ending.
I'm still okay. Well, we're not going to get it apparently. We have approximately 1 minute and 16 seconds left. Pardon me, 18 seconds left. Are we going to get an explanation as to why children? No, just because it's good for everybody. It's healthcare. It's mental health care for me and potentially you. And all right, what is the happy ending? And hopefully not all that implies, because this is still kind of a family show.
There is one.
Uh-huh.
So on the 16th of April,
Yes.
while I was performing
Yes.
inside, I saw into the glistening eyes of children.
Uh-huh.
They could see themselves in that princess.
Mind reading assumes motives. This is called projection, which also means our speaker wants the children to see themselves in the princess. But not for the sake of just being able to relate to a character who's having to go through a struggle or something else. No. It is the gender that matters, not the individual circumstance or the individual's efforts in trying to be the hero or anything. No. Specifically, the gender of the character.
They fell in love with her.
Uh-huh.
And they could see her not giving up.
Uh-huh. And that is an aspect of the character, not the gender.
Not giving into what others might have wanted of her.
Uh-huh.
And they could see themselves in her.
What does that have to do with you dressing up as a woman?
And while outside there were 100 protesters, there were like 500 counter protesters.
Uh-huh. So you feel justified in doing what you're doing?
Protecting us inside and showing the world that this art form is supposed to be protected.
The LGBTQIA plus community stands up for one another.
Really? Just no matter what? There's no conflicts therein? Everybody agrees? One big monolith? I don't think that is true.
And later that day,
We took to the street.
Who's we?
We had a block party. And in Vienna, this year, Pride started a little early in April. And what started out as a dreadful day of what might be became a day of celebration.
Uh-huh. Why do you need to have children as your audience?
Of breaking molds. Thank you.
Okay, well, not a very good presentation just in structure overall and everything else, because certain things were promised at the top that never got paid off, like healthcare. How is this healthcare? Oh, it's healthcare for you, I guess. I mean, did he say this is healthcare for the audience? Maybe that was fulfilled. I don't know. Thank you again, Poker Pierce. Someone really needs to send this talk to the feds. Well, this is Austria. And you know, those Europeans. Oh, those Europeans, yeah. We have to be all eccentric and full of ourselves. Else we can't talk like this. Yes, we're Austrian. Or something. Anyway, thank you, Poker. Yeah, Blitz Zero. Why are they cheering? I don't know. That wasn't much of a conclusion. Wasn't much of a talk. I do this because it makes me feel good, and also children should have to watch me do this because it's queer art. And why were there protesters? Right. Here's for everything else about this talk, here's the major failing of the presentation. If you're going to start out your story with an anecdote showing that there is an opposition to what you're doing, you have to, at the very least, give voice to what the opposition is concerned about. And then you have to answer it with your counterpoint. Now, whether or not how you describe their opposition is satisfactory, whether or not your counterpoint is satisfactory to numb or dull the opposition, well, that's up to the audience to decide, and also up to the way that you've structured it. But we didn't even get that. At no point did our speaker even hint as to what people were protesting about. What were their concerns? And by not answering those concerns, not even attempting to answer those concerns, but instead simply talking about how this makes him feel. This makes him feel great doing this. He could see in the eyes of the children that no. It's not about you. You're talking about a trend. You're trying to dissuade people's fears or concerns about this trend. Why do we need drag story time? Didn't offer the opposition. So anyway, I could go on, but then I'd keep on going. So let's move on to the bingo card. And bring it up here. Let me update it here. Is that all centered? That is centered. All right. So I'm going to go over it one more time by myself, guys. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them, and I will get to you momentarily. Systemic institutional. Yes. I mean, at least in the aggregate, the institution of, boxes or societal expectations, so on and so forth, mentioned or intimated several times, a circle on that one. Childhood or family anecdote. Never brought up his upbringing. Never brought up his childhood. So I can't circle that one. It never came up. He talked in the abstract. Did he? I never gave us an anecdote about his growing up. He just talked about in the abstract about not fitting in and things like that. But there was never like a specific story that I can recall, as far as I know. So unless I'm missing something, I don't think I can circle that one. Microaggressions and conscious bias. Microaggressions and conscious bias. I don't think so. Not sure that we even got to that point. Again, he never gave any stories specifically about how people interacted with him negatively, except, again, in the abstract of just growing up and not fitting in cookie cutter or whatever. So I don't think so. Somebody might have an argument for it. Privilege. No. And I don't know if there's anything said that would fit. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example. Well, in a way, the entire talk was a weightless example because it never got down to the nitty-gritty of why an audience of children, right? I mean, the title says, why do we need drag story time? But story time refers specifically to an audience of children. Why do you need to do this? Nothing that was explained about the purported benefits of this couldn't have come about from simply reading a story to a child, right? Or, as was mentioned in the chat, having a firefighter tell the story, or a military veteran, or anybody else. Why drag story time? So I'm going to circle weightless example because nothing was given to us, and what was given to us did not back up the argument. Economic disparity. I don't recall anything about any economic disparity in there. Mr. Tickletrunk, thank you so much for the laughy, smiley, happy dog cat fox. Oh, dog cat fox.
Wow. Wow.
That's a Sinatra dog cat fox. Thank you so much, Mr. Tickletrunk. Hope you're having a good evening so far. Okay, moving on. Feminism. The gender swapping. Pointing out the gender swapping. Let's have the woman rescue the man for once. I mean, it's not inherently feminist, but it is a feature of a lot of feminist theory these days, and especially in Hollywood and otherwise. A list. Did he ever give a list? I don't think he ever gave a list. Not that I can think of. White supremacy. Race never came up. Word salad. I'm still on the fence about the whole cookie cutter thing. I mean, I get the analogy, I guess. It just felt very awkward. And word salad, I mean, I understood everything he was saying, even if I was waiting for certain things that never happened. But I don't know. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No. Our speaker was the brave and proud and free performer and so on. So no. Argumentative non sequitur. Again, I hate to double dip, but really the entire talk never came around and actually told us why. Like it was the title. Why drag story time? Why does someone in drag need to do this in front of children? It just doesn't make any sense. Insofar as this argument goes, maybe there's an argument out there that would make sense, even if I didn't agree with it, but this one didn't make any sense. Anecdote that probably never happened. I mean, there were so few actionable anecdotes in this. Can I believe that he performed at a place where there were protesters and counter protesters? Sure. Can I believe that he went to a parade after the fact, a block party? Sure. Can I believe that he was made fun of growing up and felt out of place? Sure. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything that fits. And lastly, leaves out vital context. Yeah, why drag story time? Why? Who else to read to children? Like, why? I'm not meaning a triple dip, but really, this whole talk, it did not have a basis. It did not have an argument. It did not have a justification for the topic at hand. All right, so that's the card as I have it. We are close to a couple of bingos. It's going to take some really good arguments, guys, because I don't know that we've got the squares for it, but I guess we'll find out. Brad Young, thank you so much for the donation. No message, but I appreciate it. Hope you're having a good evening and enjoying the show. All right, so arguments for squares yet to be circled. Put them in the chat now. If you haven't already, I'll scroll up a bit, see if I missed anything. Please be sure to tag me in your comment. Makes it easier for me to tell it from just regular stuff. Let's see. Advocast Daily. Scribe-like, given this entire talk is just him giving divergent point of view without giving the opposing side credence. Argumentative. Yeah. That I think is a good, general good summary for that one. Thank you, Advocast. Advocast again, he gave a bit of a pseudo list when talking about cookie batter. You have cookie batter, cookie cutter, and what is left. And no, it's not a list. That wasn't like 3 steps to, a better life or anything like that. I'm going to have to be, a little strict on that. Roger Reynolds, who doesn't feel out of place at least once in their life? It's part of being, exactly. And none of what was described as an experience of not fitting in has anything inherently to do with drag. Nothing. I mean, it can, but it's not exclusive. That's just growing up, finding your place in the world, so on and so forth. That's all it is. Let's see. Scribe Lights. Oh my God, I didn't miss your live stream for once. Yay! Well, yay, Silent B. Are you the Silent B? Are you the B in subtle? Is that it? Adabisi, anecdote that probably never happened. I'd say what he assumed the children were feeling as he saw into their eyes. I didn't mind reading assumes motives for that one. I'm gonna have to say to do that. I don't know if I can double up on that one. And it'd be in the same line. So I don't know. There needed to be something else, something extra. Because in that instance, he was assuming to know what the children were thinking. They weren't just staring at the goofy-looking man telling stories and dancing around on the stage. No, he knew what they were thinking. He knew they identified with the princess. So, I don't know. Any other? Yeah, we might wash out on this one, guys, because I mean, he went all over the place, but didn't give us any really specific anecdotes. I was thinking that there would be some stories of interactions that he'd had with people as a result of dressing up or something, like the reaction of his family or the reaction of just some person that was either curious or confused or something. None of that came up. So, yeah. Let's see. Detor Jones, most feminist theory now is self-defeating, particularly because of intersectionalism. At this point, it counts. What counts? You mean feminism? The feminism square? Is that what you mean? Yeah, intersectionality, man. That sucker has been morphed and mutated into so many different things. The best analogy I ever came up for it is piling up a bunch of molehills and calling it a volcano. That's how I interpreted intersectionality the way it was presented to me several times. Advocatus, I mean, his entire point sort of implies that anyone not queer has privilege in not needing such special treatment. Yeah, I guess. Oh well, okay. On the alternative. Let's see. Okay, so here's a question for you. People who do drag are inherently better storytellers. Is that privilege or anecdote that never happened? Well, that's not an anecdote. I don't know. I could say that might be a privilege. Yeah, I'm going to call that a privilege. That was, yeah, they just obviously automatically have. Yeah, I mean that's almost the definition of privilege, is automatically better storytellers, right? Yeah. So I think that works. All right, I'm gonna answer my own question. There you go. Let's see. Assassin of the Gray. They do this to sexually groom children by design. It is harmful. This is effectively a front for NAMBLA and normalizing pedophilia for the networks. I can't read the mind of our speaker. Everything I got out of this talk was it's an ego trip for the speaker. It is validation and affirmation to our speaker of their worldview. Anything beyond that, I couldn't say. But everything I got out of this is, at the very least, is an ego trip for a speaker to justify his interests, his activities, his lifestyle. Aside from that, not quite sure. Deter Jones, ascribed privilege. Well, yes, exactly. Within the contents or context of the talk, he was describing a privilege exclusive to, yeah. So, in reality, no. But for the sake of the talk, yes. Adabisi, I can't believe we didn't get a list. Yeah, there wasn't a, I have 3 things I want to tell you, or anything. It was just always one. I have one question to ask, and I have one thing I want you to think about, or something like that. And that's, yeah, a list of one isn't a list. So, you're a ridiculous lunatic. If it's healthcare for a mentally degenerative at the expense of children. Yeah. Again, why do you need to perform in front of children? That is the key question. That has to have been why people were protesting. They would have been protesting outside a burlesque theater where you're performing drag. No one would have cared. So the main conflict of the initiating story was never addressed at all. Let's see. Any other arguments for squares to be circled, guys? I mean, just on. Okay, word salad is the only one that might, but and I mean, like, the healthcare thing was also kind of an argumentative non sequitur in a way, but word salad. I don't know that there was word. There wasn't a point at which I just felt like it was. It all meant something to the talk, but it just never arrived at a destination, if that makes sense. So Yeah, I don't think it ever got to the level, got close. I will say with the cookie cutter thing, we got close, but no cigar. Yeah. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. We're about an hour and a half now, and I think that's enough. Now, as always, as has been the case at least a couple times now, I've had people leave comments after the show has concluded with arguments for squares to be circled that weren't in this case, that were valid enough for me to retroactively circle a square and at least get a bingo. So it's not impossible. I am still open to arguments either right after the show or, if you're seeing this 6 months from now, at least if nothing else, symbolically, I can affirm a bingo potentially or a square being circled. So let me know in the comments below if you're watching this in the future. Some programming notes. Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern will be the Sunday stream where I'll talk about a thing. Not sure what it'll be yet, but I'll figure it out. I've got a couple of days now. I've got a 3-day weekend. I've got tomorrow off for Veterans Day, so I have some extra time to think about it. And also, I'm scheduled to appear Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern over on Midnight's Edge After Dark for the series now called the Shit List, wherein various topics are challenged to us, the panel members, and we have to give our top 5 selections out of pop culture, movies, comic books, TV shows, so on and so forth. I'm not quite sure what this week's subject is. Better find out quick or else those cards aren't going to be made up. And beyond that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to plug or advertise. I'm blanking right now. If it comes to me, I will post it on Twitter. X. Twitter X. Follow me on Twitter at scribe_light. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment afterwards if you would. And subscribe for notifications if you haven't already, because all of that helps out the algorithm and now helps out people already subscribed to the channel to actually get notifications of oncoming shows. Apparently, that does not happen to the frequency of you saying you want notifications unless there is perpetual and reciprocal interaction from the audience on these things. This is how YouTube's algorithm is working now. So please, if you haven't already, take a moment and let me know what you think about the show. Either way, everybody, appreciate it. Also, before I go, I do have a Discord server. Aha! See, I should have this prepared ahead of time. But as you all know, I'm a completely professional and very practiced entertainer, which means I don't know what I'm doing hour to hour. So in the chat, you will find a link to the Discord server that'll take you to the landing channel called Say Hello. All you have to do there is say hello, as well as give the secret word. The secret word will tell me and my moderators that you actually watched the stream and thus have earned the right to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is non-binarity. Non-binarity. So, non-binarity and hello will get you into the Discord server. There you go. But with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this interesting presentation. It is TEDx after all. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the GoFundMe's pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. It's very, very much appreciated. And more so, for those of you in the audience, either listening now or in the future, if you are a veteran and have served this country or have served any country of which we are allied to, thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice. My family has a long history of service, and I appreciate it every day, but especially on Veterans Day. So thank you guys so much. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Thursday. Hope you have a good Friday ahead of you, whether you have it off or not. Weekend as well. Hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.